at this moment is to begin our legislative workshop at the federal level. Our federal legislative workshop, and we have Susan Lind here, and also we have Daphne Sainville. So who will begin this program? Daphne.
Daphne. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I wanted to begin by thanking you for having this federal workshop. I have with me Ms. Susan Lent from Aiken Gump, our federal contract lobbying firm. In your packets, you will have the exhibit, which is the 2024-2026 federal legislative program. There were some stylistic edits as well as some project edits in the transportation page. So let us begin. Very quickly, there's the introduction with the strategic plan. With the new strategic plan for 2025, that page will be replaced with the updated goals and objectives. I didn't get a chance to replace it with fiscal year 2025. The fundamental principles are similar, if not identical, to the ones that are found in the state legislative program, except instead of Florida League of Cities, it's the National League of Cities. General fundamental principles statement, as well as unfunded mandates. And for funding opportunities, there is an additional section for funding opportunities that indicates the Commission's support for legislation that increases funding for agencies supporting local government initiatives, and the reenactment and also continued funding for community funding projects, which are fondly known as earmarks, the congressional members' opportunity for funding projects and programs in their respective districts. Homelessness and housing opportunities. As we know, affordable housing is a nationwide crisis, so whatever programs and funding opportunities are there to assist local governments for those opportunities, we're going to apply for them, as well as infrastructure resilience and transportation. On page 5, there are the Commission's legislative priorities. Those are the general statements for water quality and wastewater management, infrastructure enhancements, public safety initiatives, neighborhoods, climate change and disaster resiliency, as well as economic stability and business development. And beginning on page 6 are specific requests that we have received from our departments. The first from Community Affairs is the Critical Homeless Support Service Hotspots Project. In some, it would be addressing hotspots in the city where homeless individuals are congregating.
All right, let's stop right there. What does that mean? What does it mean where we're going to address hotspots? How are we defining addressing hotspots?
So if Louisa is here from Neighbor Support.
Sure, let's have that conversation, because on my way here, I saw a huge encampment at the bus station. It looked like a nice day. Everyone's sunning themselves. Right at the foot of that beautiful Architectonica staircase. It's becoming a hotspot, and it's becoming an unfortunate episode in our community, and we need to address it immediately. Have we tried to make contact with the county? What's going on there?
Do you want me to answer that?
Oh, do you have?
Well, no, I've spoken to the county a few times, and I've been trying to get a hold.
Who did you speak with?
I spoke. Over the last several months, I've touched base with Nan and Lamar. The big thing is I'm trying to reach the sheriff's office, and they have a plan. And I spoke to Greg. I spoke to our police chief, my staff, and we're just having difficulty scheduling a meeting with the chief regarding some of the initiatives, including our what used to be called the Stockade and other programs going forward. So we're working diligently. I know Pam is working.
Well, let me help you out here. The county is on record that they have no intention of using the Stockade as an alternative site for housing for homeless people. They've told us that again and again. So I don't want you to waste your time, because you're going to find it to be very frustrating. Nan Rich is particularly against using the Stockade. As far as as far as an immediate measure is concerned, I applaud your efforts. Trust me, I applaud your efforts to raise awareness with both the mayor of the county as well as our particular county commissioner. But they just seem to pass it over to their staff people, and we're getting no response. So that's why I want to know what is our staff doing to try to communicate with their staff.
Mr. Mayor, on February 13th, we sent communications to the county administrator's office to see how we could address this issue, along with pictures of what we observed and how we're limited to as well, and what actions we can take. The chief can also elaborate more on that. But we also have Assistant City Manager Anthony Fajardo that can talk about the hot spots and how we address those today, and some of the things that the neighbor support team is doing.
Have we heard back? That was a week ago. Have we heard back from the county since you made that inquiry?
No, have not.
Okay, thank you. Anthony.
Good afternoon. Excuse me, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Anthony Fajardo, Assistant City Manager. So what Luis's team is doing through neighborhood support in conjunction with our police department is mapping out where these areas are, where we're hearing complaints, where we know of them already, trying to be proactive. We have.
What does proactive mean? What are we doing?
Right. So we have, as you know, it's limited in what we can do to take action to require somebody to take services, to accept services. What we do is we have our task force for the homeless go out. They engage the individuals who are at these locations. They talk to them, try to build a relationship. They get them into services once, they come to the conclusion that they can do that and point them in the right direction. Mm-hmm. We did have some success with an individual, I believe, Chief, it was over by the 17th Street Causeway recently, a gentleman who was camped out in that location. So it takes an effort. It really is trying to focus on where these things are happening, trying to be proactive in terms of where we think they might go back to. So when we get an area that's cleared out, that we monitor those areas and try to make sure that those encampments don't crop up again. We, as the city manager said, we have had conversations with the county on multiple occasions regarding the bus stop. We think we might see some sort of action.
What is the resistance there that their inaction has caused this?
I don't know that I really...
About the bus stop? Yeah, maybe the chief can come in and talk about the bus stop. But what we understand is that we have to consult with the county. And
this is their property.
Right.
They have to trip over the homeless people when they leave their county government center. They can't be unaware of the problem. These people need help.
Yeah, and I want to ask the police chief to talk about some of those challenges as well. But I wanted to also address, so hotspots also means that we may require additional funding for resources, overtime, or at least enforcement capabilities.
That's what the $2 million is for?
In addition to that, also, we partner with the Task Force for the Homeless, which is another capability of us trying to bring that assistance to them. Because, again, the police department is very limited on what they can do, what actions they take. So it's a combination of things, a combination of having even more beds with the Salvation Army so that we can get the help that these individuals need. But the chief is right now up by the dais, and he can talk more about the bus terminal and how he can enforce there.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Bill Schultz, Chief of Police. Reference the county bus terminal. It is correct. That is county property. They have security guards that work there for the county. They used to have deputies who worked in off-duty detail there. They do not have them anymore. They've had us on and off throughout the years, but ultimately they are the ones who give us the authority, or their deputies the authority of what they want done with that. And to my knowledge, I have not seen any direct direction from county management on how they want to address that issue.
So you've gotten no response since a week ago from the county. Neither has the city manager, and yet the problem is still there.
So, Mr. Mayor, what we can do is we'll have to take additional measures and see.
Have you tried calling their county administrator on this?
I have not, just by written format.
Say it again?
Just by written email. That's all.
Yeah, but that's how you have
I'll
communicated.
try giving a call. I'll call.
Okay.
Just before we move on,
Yes, ma'am.
yes, we do have the issue with the county properties, but also I'm looking here. There's other areas that should be deemed hotspots that are not identified, and we're talking about what the county isn't doing. We need to also identify areas in District 3 where there are hotspots where we see a large congregation of homeless. We know it is because of lack of housing and shelters of that matter, but on this particular document, it's not even identified. So these are things that we need to include, not only saying, you pass by the bus stop, downtown terminal, which happens to be the county, but what happens when we drive by city identified areas that belong to the city and we're not addressing them? This needs to be addressed and included
Agreed.
as well.
Is this what your office is doing in terms of
Anthony?
Is this what your office is doing in terms of identifying hotspots throughout the city?
Yes, sir.
And how long will that process take?
It shouldn't take long. I mean, we typically know where they are.
Right.
So it's a matter of just making sure the data is up to date based on the information we have.
Okay. And this,
With my conversation, I understand we do have the issue with those county spouts, but we do need to clean up home first. Let's take care of home. And I understand none of us want to drive by and witness those encampments, but also let's make our priority one and take care of what we need to do, and then also include and address the county. But we can't say county what you're doing if we're not addressing
well,
our home.
I don't disagree with you. So let me ask you something, Greg. One of the big issue with regard to homelessness is lack of available homes, lack of
Yes.
apartments and so forth. There's money out there with vouchers and so forth, but we don't have the ability to find actual apartments or homes for homeless people. Are there any, maybe I should direct this to you ladies, are there any programs at the federal level that might assist us in trying to fund housing opportunities for homeless people?
There are programs out of the Department of Housing and Urban Development. There's programs for homelessness, and there's obviously community development block grants that you can look to. Some of them, the question would be whether the city would be eligible, or you have to go through. There's a continuum of care program.
We have a continuum of care at the county level, right?
Right, and that's
But the
where
money
most
seems to
of-
stop there.
That's where most of the funds would come in, besides the community development block grants.
Right. As a city, we can apply to the community development block grant program. So, but the other programs you're saying are directed through the county, correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Well, the thing is, we have a problem. And as the vice mayor is saying, and everybody else on this commission has been saying, and it just becomes more palpable every time you drive down the street. And we really need to take this seriously. And unfortunately, no matter what we're doing to try to chip away at the problem, it's starting to get ahead of us. And, I'm really asking all of you to continue in your efforts to try to see how we can make, major headway in trying to significantly reduce the problem. Yes, Commissioner.
Just want to say a couple of things in regard to what you had mentioned earlier. Yes, I have spoken to probably almost the majority of the county commissioners and Mayor Nan Rich, and I'm well aware of a few things. Number one, her commitment, her drive, her concern. I know her position there, and she did speak very highly of Commissioner Pam Beasley Pittman. I guess they have a very good working relationship. But pivoting back for a moment to what I had brought up earlier, I've been working with Broward Health, and my position here enables me to bring them to the table too. I did speak briefly with the sheriff, and we were supposed to at least have him come and have a conversation with us, and we've been having difficulty bringing that forward. I've spoken to our police chief several times, as well as his predecessor. I've spoken to Greg. I would like us, especially now that I have Broward Health try to back whatever we're going to try to help us reach out again to Sheriff Tony if there's any way that we could make that happen. I know we're trying to get a meeting together. Any headway on that, Chief?
So the last I heard from them was last week, and they said unequivocally they were not going to meet on that. They were not going to use the stockade for that purpose. Could that change? Absolutely. But at this point, they said no, they had no ambition to do anything with the stockade.
Well, at least any meeting with them. I mean, I'd love to at least get them to the table. I'd love to, from what I gather, the sheriff has a plan that he's been working on and is ready to unveil, and I'd like to at least see what that involves, and if there's anything that Broward Health could do to bring that forward, and as well as the city, I'd like to be part of that if we can.
I can resubmit the request to the sheriff for a meeting.
Okay, please, if you can. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So,
Mr.
Commissioner, 1 second. So, Commissioner, the partnership that we need to create with Broward Health has to do, at least initially, with their discharge proceedings. You know what I'm talking about, right?
You have no idea how much homelessness affects them. I mean, a length of stay, use of resources, beds, getting people discharged so patients could come in. We have many patients that are sitting there that are able to go home, but no place to go home, and the ER gets backed up. They get patients with emergencies can't come in there. They're very committed to working with
That
us.
I'm aware of, but it's when they finish treating them is what
Safe discharge plan.
they discharge them on our streets where they didn't start on our streets. They started somewhere else. That's where Broward Health needs to be more engaged. And I've spoken with the CEO many months ago, but if with your connection with the agency, it would be great if you could be the liaison to see if we can push that effort forward to try to get a discharge program, a protocol where patients, once brought to the hospital, aren't then put out on the streets of Fort Lauderdale. They should be brought back to where they originated, and perhaps have more of an opportunity to be with friends, families, or whatever. Because being on the streets of Fort Lauderdale doesn't help them; it doesn't help us.
Love to. That's exactly my goal. I think you nailed it, Mr. Mayor.
Adding to the conversation, as far as your rescue in the house, because I believe individuals who are brought to the hospital, Broward General, they usually are in a specified area, so we wouldn't necessarily be getting someone that's coming from Plantation to Broward General Hospital for service via ambulance service. Am I correct?
Yes and no, and there's some caveats to that.
Okay.
And I'll give you an example. Sometimes we get specialized care, and we do things that other hospitals don't, and they would transfer it to us. Things like neurosurgery, hands, certain OB/GYN that they don't have. And number two, for whatever reason, because we're a trauma, we would get all of the trauma that comes through here, and when the trauma is ready to go, they're now locked into downtown Fort Lauderdale. So we do. It does skew in our direction an awful lot.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just one more thing
Yes,
I
I'm
want to
sorry,
add.
Greg.
Part of the challenge too is the mental health and support for having some type of capability of mandatory assessment of mental health. Right now, the chief can relay the experience has been that when someone refuses, although they look like they need help, it is something that we have to accept. And in the past, we had state resources that had mental health capabilities, and those functions helped mitigate what we see today. I'm not sure if the chief can elaborate more on that. What was that experience before when you had state mental health support?
Well, it's been decades since that's happened, but the state hospital system did allow for a much more expeditious submission of someone to the court system to request that they receive mandatory treatment. We don't have that expeditious option right now. There are still laws on the book that you could present a case, but it all has to be adjudicated, and there's nothing quick about it.
Okay, thank you. You may proceed. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I also wanted to let you know I gave you the draft one-pagers of each of the projects. So as I go through them, they'll just be in summary form, but what I've given you are the draft one-pagers that aren't yet complete, but I just wanted you to have them for additional information. The next project in public safety is the construction of new Fire Station 13 for $6.1 million. The existing building isn't designed to current code on our city and state building codes. So this new fire station would be built to meet the needs of the fire rescue department. The next request is under infrastructure and resilience. It's the lead and copper rule compliance program for $3 million. I believe Florida DEP is requiring us to do a lead and copper service line inventory, service line replacement plan with a 10-year completion date. It would also include funding for a sampling and monitoring plan and public outreach to customers. The next one is the Southeast Isles stormwater improvements for $17.5.
What happened to Breakers Avenue? You skipped over it.
Breakers
You
is
just skipped over Breakers Avenue.
under transportation.
Okay, you went from lead and copper to stormwater improvements. Did you mean to skip over Breakers Avenue?
Yes. So in the updated exhibit and the updated program, I've included headers, so it would go from community affairs, infrastructure and resilience, transportation,
Okay, all right.
and I can provide that to you.
Well, this is for the public. Please proceed.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
when you have a chance, I do have an update about the bus terminal.
Can you take a pause? Yes, sir.
So I just came aware about an operations that's happening. However, it is still under wraps, if you will, because
Well, it's not working.
just there's something that's going to happen very soon this week.
Okay.
And maybe I can brief each one of you individually.
Okay, that's fine.
But it was, I just received that update right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, sorry to interrupt you. Please proceed.
No worries. The Southeast Isles stormwater improvement for 17.5, that is the requested amount for proposed improvements that are intended to reduce flood stage and time of inundation above road crowns for a 10-year, 24-hour design storm event and to protect against structural flooding. The benefits would include providing the residents with a safer community to live and protect in major infrastructure from damage, well, protect and live during a major infrastructure event.
This is regarding the Southeast Isles?
Yes.
So which streets are we talking about?
If Alan can come up for more of the specifics. It just indicated in the talk sheet that it would be the Southeast Isles neighborhood, but no particular street designation.
I mean, because I've been made aware that some streets, it might take more than this amount just for one street. So I'm just wondering, Alan, is there a specific program that you have devised? You look nice today, Alan.
Oh, thank you very much, Mayor and Commissioners. The Southeast Stormwater Isles project is one of the original 7 neighborhoods that we had in the Stormwater Master Plan.
Right,
so
right.
it is really going from pretty close to where the bridge is near Alito Drive,
Right.
going all the way to the east. It also extends just a little bit south of the waterways and covers that entire area. And we can provide a map of that, but it's the project that we've been working on for several years.
Okay, so this is just to augment the efforts we've already begun.
Well, yes, we have it designed, and it would be to offset 50% of the construction funding for when we go out to bidding.
Okay, great. Thank you. Please proceed.
The next project is Victoria Park neighborhood stormwater improvements for $12.8 million. And the primary goal is to implement new stormwater infrastructure within the right-of-way areas in the Victoria Park neighborhood. and for almost the same reasons as I believe the Southeast Aisle stormwater improvements. It would also be done in Victoria Park. The next subheader is under transportation, and that is where we see Breakers Avenue. There is the total project cost amount of 13.6. We do have the breakers currently as a fiscal year 2024 request, so we're still waiting to see where the final federal budget takes us, but it would be to create that iconic corridor for mobility, safe crossroads, climate resilient public space serving the neighborhoods and visitors of Fort Lauderdale. So the streetscape elements, pedestrian lighting, trees, landscape, and shared use street design, as well as underground water and sewer utility upgrades. That is the Breakers Avenue project.
What is the total estimate what is the total cost for the entire project?
13.6.
That's it? Okay. All right.
That's what has been indicated to me from Transportation and Mobility.
Okay. Thank you.
The next project is $5.1 million for the Los Olas Boulevard Corridor Improvement Project. This one aims to create a complete street allowing for iconic roadways, providing residents and visitors a main street experience while also operating as a regionally significant corridor for commuters and balancing the needs of all the users. So it supports the city's Vision Zero plan to eliminate traffic fatalities and severe injuries by enhancing pedestrian safety and improving ADA facilities. That is the Los Olas Boulevard Corridor Improvement Project. Then there is Riverland Road traffic calming for $175,000. That is the requested amount. It's to leverage our recent Tiger funding that we've received in added mobility improvements, adding traffic calming measures to slow vehicle traffic to improve safety for the users of the new infrastructure. And that project is located on Riverland Road between US 441, I believe State Road 7, and Davie Boulevard, and includes traffic calming in 5 intersections and 2 crosswalks. There's also, as a side note, there's also been state funding requests for this project as well. So we would leverage and layer those requests. The next one is Lauder Trail for 6.5. It's a comprehensive multi-use trail system to safely connect everyone in the city of Fort Lauderdale to parks, transit, local businesses, and attractions. And it's to construct segments 2D, 2E, and 2F, which connect the downtown mobility hub to Carter Park. And the last transportation...
I'm sorry to interrupt. I had a question about that. Because we did have a presentation that also included the connection of Holiday Park to George English Park, but is that one of these 2D, 2E, 2F, or is that something else, or are we also going to be looking for assistance with connecting those two?
Ben will answer that.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Ben Rogers, Director of Transportation Mobility. So the segment from Holiday Park to George English, we've got a state grant that we bring into the commission probably in March, which would give us design and construction funding for that segment.
Great. Thank you, Ben.
If we can go back, I'm following the CAM page number 6. Did I miss Lauderdale Manors Park, multimodal?
In the updated version, that particular request was removed.
And what's the reason
What
for
was
that?
the reason?
I did not get a reason.
Who removed it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It was by the request of transportation. There were edits to their original requests. I believe Lauderdale Manors is also one of the 2024 existing requests that we have currently in the federal budget.
I'm not understanding that.
Yes, thank you.
This is a request for funding for the federal funds, right?
Correct.
So why was it removed then?
So, Vice Mayor, I'm not aware of it being a request for removal, so let me go back and check with my staff, and I can come back to you.
Okay. All right, thank you. And then also, if we can go back, I'm going back over to page 4 with the infrastructure resilience and transportation, giving highlight to water, wastewater, and stormwater. I'm always asking for infrastructure regarding broadband. I don't see anything addressing that.
No, we didn't have that as part of the request so far, because right now we have one broadband project being funded by the state. It's in the middle of being vetted and completed, so that we can have an initial implementation of broadband access. Additionally to that, we're looking at working with a provider that will install the infrastructure for the city, just like they did in a community close by, that would allow us to have broadband capabilities at no cost. So all that right now, we're working with our legal partners to get that vetted for your review.
Okay, so this is at a conversation level, so nothing has been concrete. It's just a
Well,
conversation.
I think they're applying for the money from the state as opposed to the federal government. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we have secured money from the state to start broadband, specifically by the North River Fork Elementary area.
North Fork.
North Fork, and those funds have been secured, but they're going through an environmental review process, and additionally, to do a delivery of broadband, we have discussed with a vendor that is doing the same work at City of Margate, and right now that has been under substantial legal review. Is that right, City Attorney?
That is, Vice Mayor, in looking into this, it's apparent to me that we do need some very specialized help in telecom. I'm going to bring to you a lawyer who's extremely experienced in this to guide us. He's dealt with this for the city of Pompano, which is close to getting a contract. Margate, unfortunately, just signed a contract without very much legal review. I can't expect that to be used by us as a benchmark. Pompano will be helpful, and the lawyer I'm going to propose to you will help us do that. So I'm going to bring the lawyer back to you at the March 5 meeting.
Okay, and also, what I'm hearing is the method that the direction we're going, assessing or going to grant monies from the state. This will cover what we need to address our broadband issues.
So the money from the state, which would help us start. And also, if we can get this proposal by this vendor to deploy broadband, we will be able to cover the broadband needs without an impact to general fund costs.
Okay, all right. Because what I'm hoping to see, that we definitely get this opportunity through the state fundings, and we're not missing an opportunity through the federal level to request funds.
Right.
So I'm hoping we don't have a gap where we get to number 3 in the line and we go, oh, we need X amount of dollars. We should have addressed or requested funding also from the federal level.
Right. We just received also over the weekend, Commissioner Herbst shared with us a potential grant application, and we're also going to pursue that grant as well. That is due in mid-March, and our IT director, Chief Information Officer, is also going to put that application together. But we're trying different ways to get this funded. And again, like the city of Margate, as they're doing it, we found that was a good parallel. But again, now we have to get it under legal review and make sure that anything we do is compliant, is legally feasible before we move on with that.
Okay.
So, Susan, if I can ask you, so the Build America Bureau, I think there was significant attention being paid to broadband costs and funding for individual cities to implement these programs. Is that something we can apply directly as a city to the federal government, or has that money been passed on to the state, and that's why we're going through the state?
So my understanding is, so there was money for broadband that went to the Department of Commerce.
Right.
And I know that the bulk of that money, it went to it's going to the states, and that the city would apply to the state
That's
funds,
what
which
I
is what I'm
thought.
assuming that Greg is
Yeah.
talking about. And there may be at some point some competitive dollars that I have to take a look again and see how that works, which I can do and get back to you. But I think what he's talking about, it's called the BEAD program, and that's the program where, you know, a fairly large amount of money is going to each state, and then the state administers the
Right.
funding, and the cities apply.
So my familiarity with the program was that there was significant dollars being intended for broadband, especially in underserved communities.
That's correct.
And then I was then told, well, yeah, we want it, but now we pushed all the money to the state to administer it. So I just want to make sure we're following that track, follow the money, you know, so that we don't miss out on opportunities. So it's not like we aren't applying to the federal government when we should, like, as if there should be money there for us. I think that's now been directed to the state. So hopefully we can pursue that and not lose out on the opportunity at the state level.
For further clarification, on the state level, there was $40 million that was put into a local cybersecurity grant last year, which is the money that Greg is referring to, that we applied for in order to kickstart us into our programming. This year, in the budget, in both the House and Senate budget, that $40 million was being reverted back into general funds. However, as of last night, we heard from one of our state lobbyists that there is being some backroom discussions about bringing that $40 million back, that $40 million grant program back, that we would be able to apply for more funds for in order to further our program along when it comes to broadband and cybersecurity.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mayor?
And
I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
sorry, and what I'll do is I realize, and I apologize, that I was supposed to add in that cybersecurity broadband language in those general statements, and I failed to do that. So I will make sure it's in big bold letters, that I'll get that in for the final approved draft.
What about cameras? Are we good with, is the constitutionality of putting cameras in neighborhoods or in major intersections? You know how some cities have that? Some do it for red light and so forth, but or speeding. You know, what about cities like New York City that has laced the entire Manhattan with cameras for crime security and terrorism security defense? What you know, so much of what we can do to try to deter crime can often be done through a camera system in our city. Is there funding for such things, or are we just dealing with cyber attacks and broadband? You want to push?
The camera issue is complicated. First, we have to look at what the state law says. And a few years ago, I did a due diligence for a client looking at an acquisition where I did a 50-state survey on state laws on cameras. And so I don't know. I don't remember what the law is in Florida. But at the same time, the Department of Transportation, they have very specific laws, which I have to look at again, on how you can, when you can use federal money for cameras for what purpose and under what
crime
circumstances.
deterrence, basically, yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I have a question going back a little, if I may. Is that all right?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, Daphne. I'm looking at the backup you have here, and I was going to wait till you come back to this. I go back to the Riverland project. You said 175,000. It was 1.1 million, so I guess 90% of it scaled back. What's the difference between those two numbers? Not mathematically, I mean.
825,000.
We could ask Ben to come back and talk about the values that are being shared there and compared to what you saw before. Perhaps that was a more comprehensive project. Ben? But this one is specific to calming measures.
For those two particular intersections.
Right.
So I believe the $9 million, I won't speak for Ben, but I believe it was comprehensive overall versus just two specific intersections.
Great question, Commissioner. So my understanding is that there was multiple funding strategies for this, and so I believe it's part of our state appropriation request for some funding. We have federal requests in there, and then we also talked about the sweet spot for funding, and if we could get enough funds to get one or two of the key intersections done, then we would do that. But if we made the ask too large or too big, that we would have less likelihood of receiving those funds.
Yeah, thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I also had a few that seem to have disappeared from the original backup to the updated version that we received yesterday afternoon. So if I may, Ben probably, thank you. So in addition to, we no longer see Lauderdale Manors Park multimodal connections, what happened to the Northeast 15th Avenue Complete Streets project for $4,235,000? That's no longer on the updated appropriation request, but it was in the original backup that we saw and that the public saw.
Yeah, unfortunately, Commissioner, I don't know the answer to that question. I think there's maybe some miscommunication among staff, and we'll need to get back.
Well, this is significant.
I understand that.
So Daphne, where did you get your information from?
From staff. So what happened?
He's staff.
Correct. So what happened when it came to some of the transportation projects was that they had submitted their forms that were submitted from last year's 2024 requests as a placeholder in the meantime while revisiting those requests, and then submitted on Wednesday afternoon the 2025 requests, which differed from those 2024 requests. And that's why they were updated, and why I had to revise and update the draft program yesterday.
All right. So are these programs going to be put back on the list? Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I can get with Daphne or the city manager. I believe they should be. I think staff submitted new ones with the understanding that the current ones would remain.
Okay, so the 15th Avenue Complete Streets project will remain. The Lauderdale Manors project will remain. Are there any others that were taken off?
Yes, there are. So
Such
if I
as?
can continue. The South Middle River mobility improvements for $2,400,000 is no longer on the updated version of the appropriation request, but that was included in the original version that was published with the agenda. And also one more, if I'm correct, the last item that was published was Parks Connection Mobility Project for $810,000. I'm not sure what it means when it says in various parks within District 23. Maybe that means 2 and 3. District 2 and 3, that's in the originally published version. But that's no longer on the appropriation request in the updated version as well.
Understood. I'll get with Daphne and the city manager afterwards. We'll make sure we get these back on. And I think I think the 23 is reflecting the federal district.
So that's the federal district 23?
I believe so.
Okay, so that would be like Moskowitz or?
That's congressional district.
It's correct.
That's congressional district 23?
Correct. Is Moskowitz.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, that is Moskowitz. Remember the shoes.
Right. Any other questions? Does that complete your report?
There was just one last
Yes, ma'am.
project, which is the Westwood Heights pedestrian improvement for $125,000 to complete 1,500 linear feet of sidewalk gaps and 31 missing ADA connections surrounding the Westwood Heights Elementary School area.
Okay. Yes, and that was not in the originally published appropriation request that we received in the agenda.
Correct. That was a new request that was submitted.
Okay. Well, Susan, you have your work cut out for you.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So I understand these are all important priorities, but I just want to mention that the only opportunity in the federal budget versus the state budget to get projects designated, or earmarks is what they call, is through this community project program, which is very, very small. And so each member can only request up to 10 projects. And then, as you know, your members represent areas beyond Fort Lauderdale. And so, and these tend to be small projects. So you are going to have to prioritize, because you may get a member that is willing to request at most 3 of your projects, I would think. And so I just want to level set that, to think about that, because there are the other opportunities, of course. We're going to go back to the state, right? Most of the federal transit dollars go to the state by formula. So FDOT, Florida DOT has the opportunity to fund projects. And then there also are competitive grants for some of the, projects that have more of a significant impact, as you know, because you've applied for them. So I just want to level set that these are a lot of projects that sound really meritorious. And then I was going to, but then I was also going to mention, like, particularly stormwater. There was a lot of money under the infrastructure law that goes out through the Clean Water and Safe Drinking Water Revolving Loan Program, and that's administered through the state. And so there are definitely opportunities to get your projects funded, but a much more limited opportunity to get them funded through earmarks.
So, but these projects do have different subject matter areas, like you say. So they wouldn't all be going in drawing from the same pot of money.
Well, yes and no. So correct, they would not be drawing from the same amount of money, but unfortunately the way that the earmarks work, the way Congress, when they brought them back a few years ago, is they limit the amount of projects a member can request.
I see.
So each member can only get, and now, first of all, just another thing to keep in mind, this was in fiscal year 2024, which is not finished yet. The committee set the rule, the House set the rule of up to 10 projects. Your senators, unfortunately, don't request earmarks, so you're stuck with the House only. And so they set a limit of 10 projects per member. So each member has to select 10 projects across all the bills that are earmarked, and then they have to make decisions between the city of Fort Lauderdale and then the other communities with the county and the other cities that may be in their district.
Okay. And some of these projects, like the 15th Avenue Complete Streets project, we've applied for money through the MPO, which is still another source of money.
Correct.
And so, okay.
Yes. And when I say Florida DOT, I should say the MPO, because the money goes out by formula and then some of it is subdivided to the MPO. So yes, so that's where there's also a lot of money. So
right.
Just these are definitely good to keep as federal priorities. I just want to level set just so that you know that there are ways to pursue the funding beyond just requesting earmarks.
Okay. All right. Does that complete your report?
That completes my report.
Okay. Anyone else have any other questions? There being none? All right.
I had a couple things I wanted to ask. Are we regarding the federal lobbying? We're supposed to be getting weekly updates and reports from you or from our lobbyists, or what's the best way as far as?
Well, they are our lobbyists.
No, Daphne. I'm saying through staff or lobbyists. Or how does?
So I've requested that Aiken Gump, that Susan provides us with monthly reports. Weekly reports would come if there's something that's moving relatively quickly through the federal process. If you desire weekly reports, I believe we can work on getting that. But I believe at the rate that Congress is going, monthly reports are.
Will that be coming through you or through directly from the lobbyists, or what's logistically the way that's going to?
It comes through me.
Okay. Are we allowed to?
Absolutely.
To
I think you just forward them to us, don't you?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that's the other question is we had how our lobbyists picked. Commissioner Herbst had alluded to this last time. How does that come through us or through you or Greg, or how does that work?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Sturman, I think what you're trying to ask is, can you contact your lobbyists directly?
Yeah.
You have full freedom to contact them directly if you'd like. All we ask is that the lobbyists let us know, or if you'd like to let us know as a courtesy, what was discussed so that we can follow up and track things.
Okay.
We just like to be consistent. But you have the absolute freedom to give them a call directly if you would like.
Okay. Well, I'm going to get to that in 1 second. Now, we did have more than one lobbying group, and now we've cut one of them. That is something that doesn't come before us. You decide, or Greg, that was under your realm, or?
Go ahead.
So this particular instance occurred because of budget cuts, as well as some other issues that I would be more than happy to discuss with you offline.
And the other question is going to correlate what you said, Greg. I mean, I know that we could just contact you, but for some reason, they were told that they were not supposed to contact us about that. But your lobbyists don't have to ask. You can contact us directly, going in the other direction. Okay. That's
Yes, I have never indicated that communication could not be free
Be
between
initiated okay, thank you.
or initiated with commissioners and our lobbyists or lobbyists and our commissioners. I just requested that we were kept in the loop so that way follow-up could be done in a timely manner.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Daphne.
Any other questions? All right, there being none, this workshop is concluded. Thank you, everybody.